Tickets came with pride. People kept them in breast pockets and prayer books, folded with shipboard maps and meal vouchers. April 1912, Southampton to New York. The newest liner in the world waited at the quay, white funnels towering, decks swept and shining. Porters hauled trunks. Steam slid from the whistles and lay low along the water. The name on the stern promised everything: Titanic. She moved down channel. Stewards pointed out lounges with thick carpets and palm courts glowing under glass. Below, third class found wooden benches and kettles that never seemed to stop boiling. Cabins filled with voices from across Europe. In first class, a purser arranged dinner sittings, while an ocean of silverware flashed like a signal. Engineers smiled when the shafts engaged, and the decks began to hum. The pilot boat fell away. The tugs let go. The liner settled into her stride, and the land turned into a smudge. Days at sea grew orderly. Morning tea, deck chairs in the sun. A newspaper printed aboard with small gossip and large confidence. A child learned to climb the companionways without counting steps. Wireless crackled with messages, welcomes sent ahead, wagers placed on arrival time, reports of ice from ships farther west. Confidence ran ahead of caution. On Sunday, the air tightened, the temperature dropped, breath showed in little puffs at the rail. Late in the afternoon, a warning arrived from the Californian about ice in a pack ahead. The wireless set logged it, then flicked back to private traffic. Sunset went out. A slow wind moved with the ship rather than against it, leaving the surface like polished slate. Stars multiplied. The lookout bell rang twice before it rang the third time. Ice ahead. On the bridge, an order snapped to starboard and for full astern. The wheel turned. Reversing engines took precious seconds. The berg slid out of the dark without theatrics, a long white shoulder. The hull missed the blunt face and scraped the unseen keel. Men in the mailroom felt cold water wrap their boots before anyone topside felt a tremor. Down forward, plates groaned and rivets let go. Compartments that were designed to flood and then stop flooding began to take more than their share. The ship kept moving, and that deceived many. In the smoking room, a card game paused. In steerage, a lullaby resumed. On D-deck, a steward noticed a list to starboard, mild as a shrug. Thomas Andrews, the ship's builder, opened inspection hatches and knew without saying that too many spaces were open to the sea. He marked an estimate on a plan, then went to work. The order to uncover lifeboats rolled along the boat deck. Davits swung, canvas covers thumped to the planks. Men tested falls, and women searched for husbands. The rule was women and children first. The problem was disbelief. Steam roared from the funnels as engineers bled pressure to keep the dynamos alive. A few boats went down half full because people thought the deck was safer than a dark sea. Behind them, the band began to play. Below, sailors opened gangways to guide third-class passengers up to the boats, but doors and language slowed them. Families clutched bedding and papers. Seawater crept along corridors and turned lamps milky. In the stokehold, the men kept feeding coal while cold came through the steel inches away. The telegraph needles on the bridge clicked to stop, then slow. Lifeboat after lifeboat went down, some cleanly, some banging the plates. On the starboard side, First Officer Murdoch kept the line moving with clipped orders. On the port side, Officer Lightoller enforced the rule so strictly that some men watched boats descend with empty spaces near the bow. Captain Smith moved from boat to boat. Wireless operators Phillips and Bride hammered the key for help. CQD and then SOS. The sea dropped from black to gunmetal as the hull settled. On the forecastle head, a thin sheen formed where the deck had never known water. Men stepped back from it as from a boundary line. A boiler let go deep inside with a sound like a slammed door. Near the stern, a group knelt and prayed. Others sang with the band. The arc of stars tilted. The list sharpened. Andrew stood in the first-class lounge, eyes traveling across details he had chosen. He told a stewardess to put on her lifebelt and help others. She did not see him again. Midnight passed. The Carpathia answered across the dark that she was coming hard, but she was far, hours away. The crew lit more rockets that rose and fell. On the waterboats drifted, some rowing. People looked back and saw the liner's shape become angles and then a slope. At the end, the bow went under cleanly, and the stern lifted high enough to show the screws. The deck tilted to a ladder. People slid. Some jumped and broke the surface near wreckage. Some held on until the angle became a refusal. Lights flickered and died. The sound that followed was many. Breaking wood, cargo shifting, voices rising and thinning. Then the night closed. In the boats, order had to be invented. Women pulled at oars with hands untested by rope. A count was tried and abandoned. An officer kept his pistol in his pocket and said nothing about it. They argued about going back and listened to the cries and did not. One boat, under 5th Officer Lowe, gathered survivors from wreckage and redistributed people between boats until gunnels sat high enough to risk a return. They pulled a few from the dark, bodies stiff and shocked. Dawn showed the ice, bergs and low floes like white tables surrounding open water where a ship had been. Smoke on the horizon grew into masts, then a stack, then a hull. Carpathia slid among the boats and took people in by rope ladders and slings. Blankets, broth, lists. Names repeated to be sure they were real. On her deck, a line of shoes stood drying in the pale sun. The bandsmen's names were spoken quietly that morning. News sprinted ahead by wireless. In New York, families pressed to the piers and stared at the mouth of the river until their eyes ached. Some held flowers that would not be given. Reporters asked for heroics and villains. Survivors offered moments, a steward's steady hand, a sailor cutting a jammed fall, a stranger lifting a child, a last hat wave from a man with no place left in any boat. The inquiry rooms came later, with diagrams and careful voices. They counted bodies and boats, lifebelts and binoculars, warnings sent and warnings missed. Everything was measured. Nothing was made right. What remains is ordinary detail sharpened by loss. A cup in the pantry still warm when it slid. A wine list dated Sunday. A print of a ship on a cabin wall that went down with a ship. A wireless log underlined twice. A pocket watch stopped at an hour that disagrees with other clocks. The ocean keeps its own time. More than 1,500 people did not see Monday. Many never had names in the news. The survivors lived with a sound they could not describe to anyone who had not heard it. Rules changed. Ships carried enough boats for souls, drilled for the worst, kept radios alive at night. The sea did not grow safer in itself. People grew more careful near it. The Atlantic does not offer a simple moral. A proud ship met a night made for hiding ice. Men did their jobs. Some did more. Luck did the rest. The liner sits in pieces now, 2 miles down. Personal things lie where no hand will use them again. Every few years, new cameras go down and send up the same lesson in a different light. Plans and steel have limits. Water does not forget. Thank you for listening to Road to Ruins. Subscribe for more true stories where systems fail and people pay the price.